Hello, BookTube. Well, it's a grim day here in America. Another armed lunatic has killed a bunch more school children. Those of you who don't live here, I have no way to explain this. I have no way even to begin to. Those of you who do live here, I have no way to explain this. I can't even begin to. But we can at least talk about books, right? So I'll make 2 videos today, and then just get offline and just read and write. But we can make 2 videos. I'll make a Friday Reads, and I also have some books to show you. And Friday Reads is split between paperbacks and hardcovers, split between some rereads and some new books. This is not everything because most of these are very small, so they're not going to take me very long. I'm going to read. I'm actually having a guest over tonight, so I will read later tonight, all night long. And then all day tomorrow, all day Sunday. So I will polish off a lot this weekend. And the first one is the new paperback release of a book that I never read when it was in hardcover. I saw it in advanced copy. I saw it in finished copy. I was mildly intrigued the whole time, but I never actually did get to it. It's Terry Lynn DeFino's The Bar Harbor Retirement Home for Famous Writers and Their Muses, in a very nice trade paperback. And it, let's see here. I might as well just tell you about it, right? Since we'll both be exploring it. I haven't read it, so this is a breakout contemporary fiction novel as a valentine to anyone who loves sinking into a good book or stories about writers and will transport readers to beautiful New England coast where magic and reality blur at the Bar Harbor home for the elderly. Alphonse Carducci was a literary giant who lived his life to excess. Lovers, alcohol, parties, and literary rivalries. But now he's come to Bar Harbor home for the elderly to spend the remainder of his days among kindred spirits, the publishing industry's nearly gone but never forgotten greats. Only now, at the end of his life, does he comprehend the price of appeasing every desire and the consequence of forsaking love to pursue greatness. For Alphonse has an unshakable case of writer's block that distresses him as much as his precarious health. It intrigued me. I don't know why I never got to it. It intrigued me right from the start. But I'll make up for that. I'll read it now. And next one, paperback that needs no introduction. It just won a major award. It's had lots of press. It's by Andrew Sean Greer. It's the paperback of Less, his novel Less, with the big Pulitzer Prize sticker on it. I read this in Galley and loved it. Praised it to everybody I knew, all the book critics that I knew. I said, you're going to dismiss this. You're going to read the description. Oh my God, it's another, tired writing life, academic life novel with a little bit of gay life thrown in. You're going to dismiss it for that. You shouldn't. Read the first 30 pages, the first 40 pages. You'll see the energy, the snap of the thing. And then I got it in finished copy and loved it. I put it on my year's best list, and it surprised me by winning the Pulitzer. It's not, to my mind, for fiction, a Pulitzer kind of book. But one way or another, I'm happy for it to have a larger audience, and now it's out in this trade paperback. So I haven't actually checked, but this was reviewed by everybody. So Ron Charles reviewed it at the Post. Karen J. Fowler, the great Karen J. Fowler, the novelist herself, gave it a blurb. Adam Hazlitt, who's also really good, Nell Zink, Armistead Mopan, weighed in, Christopher Buckley, Michael Upchurch, who's really, really good. Kirkus Reviews loved it. And I'm going to be happy. I'll happily read it again and then sort of retire it for 5 years, and then I'll go back to it later on. Then the next one is also a paperback release. It's with a movie cover, and the only reason that I was really prompted to pick it up and read it, it's not really my kind of thing, but the reason I was prompted to pick it up and read it is because I saw the screener for the movie and really liked it. It's Adrift, which is a nonfiction account of a young couple adrift at sea. It's by Tammy Olden Ashcraft, and as you can see, it's going to be made into a movie with Shailene Woodward and Sam Claflin, two really talented young actors. I watched the screener and was impressed. So I'll be happy to read the book and see. This is a perfect example of the heretical point that I make on this channel all the time, which is that the movie adaptation of a book, almost any book, is usually better than the book, except on firmly literary terms. So you could make a movie adaptation of The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann that would convey the plot and maybe even some nuances of the character better than the book does. But the movie could not possibly do what the book does, literally speaking. It could not possibly do, but very few books do that. Far fewer books do that than we like to admit. Like, for instance, Less does not do that. If Less were made by, you've got a really intelligent director, a really intelligent writer, and just the right casting, especially for the main character, you could convey the novel Less on the screen without losing anything. Whereas there's no possible way that you could convey the novel of Magic Mountain on the screen. There's no offense to screenwriters. It's just not possible. But not a lot of books do that. Not a lot of books actually have the talent, the heft, the insight to actually, as it were, fully move into their own genre. They tend to be one foot in many genres. And this, I bet, is going to end up being a perfect example where the book is tedious compared to the movie without being anything more than the movie. But we shall see. I will report back. The next one is a lovely paperback finished copy of something we saw in advance. This is an author I really love, although I hesitate to say his name because those of you who know his language will know that I'm butchering it. It's Olive. That's his last name. We'll just call it O'Leary. Oliver O'Leary writes this series of murder mysteries set in, I think it's 16th century? 17th century. About a hangman and his family, at a time when hangmen weren't just executioners. They did a whole bunch of other things too, and wanted to be officially recognized for doing a whole bunch of other things. At a time when hangmen, executioners, butchers often performed quasi or even explicitly medical tasks as well. Horrifying to those of us in the 21st century. Absolutely horrifying, but still true. And, before we get too high up on our horse, keep in mind that if civilization isn't destroyed, if it doesn't fall apart, if it continues progressing, then the 23rd century is going to consider the 21st century barbaric also for its medicine. They're going to say they cut people open to perform procedures on them. And they insisted that sick people travel from their homes where they're the most comfortable and the most likely to improve to a strange building that's just swimming in bacteria. They're going to look back and say, well, that was barbaric. None of us in the 23rd century would want to, fall into the hands of 21st century medicine. Same thing here. But the main draw of these books is the character. This writer is so good at writing characters, not only that his signature hangman, but all the supporting characters, and also fantastic at atmosphere. So that when this author's on his game, you really feel the creepiness of the fact that a murder has been committed and a murderer is not yet caught. A very simple thing that is often so simple that a lot of murder mystery writers kind of skip right over it when it's actually very creepy. And I was very happy to see that Mariner Press brought it out like this. It's got the gatefold flap, the French flaps, it's got the deckled edges. It's just a really well-made trade paperback. They're not bothering with the $30 hardcover. They're just going to give it. They brought out an advance copy so that reviewers could look at it, and then they're bringing out this thing, so that people can actually buy it and still have money left over for the rest of the week. Which I really applaud that. I wish that everyone did that. I wish that these trade paperbacks that I'm showing, well, this one, yes, but I wish these trade paperbacks that I'm showing you were the only things. I really do, in American publishing and everywhere else. But one way or another, I've let this go. I had the advance copy and I didn't get to it, even though it's a series I love, so I'll be getting to it. And then we have some hardcovers that I want to show you. And keep in mind, this is not delusional on my part. These are short books, and I read very fast, and I read all the time. I do almost nothing else. So I'm not just insanely putting up a stack of books for one weekend's reading. This is what I do. So I know most of you don't need me to worry about that. But nevertheless, so the next one is it's a novel by someone with the coolest name in all of publishing, Andromeda Romano Lax, who was, I think, one of the Doctor Who's companions. But this is Plum Rain's fantastic cover. Circuit boards over plum trees, and I'll just read you about it. This is on my docket for this weekend, probably for tonight. Let's see here. Hold it up for you there, because that's really nice. In a tour de force tapestry of science fiction and historical fiction, Andromeda Romano Lax, I would ordinarily say the author, but I can't get enough of saying her name, presents a story set in Japan and Taiwan that spans a century of empire, conquest, progress, and destruction. Plum Rains elegantly addresses diverse and important contemporary conversations, including immigration, artificial intelligence, and the intersection of labor and technology, and the ecological fate of our planet. Now, I'm hoping, as a reader and especially as a reviewer, that it only secondarily does any of those things. Because if you write a novel about hot-button issues, your novel is garbage. No matter how well it's done, it's still garbage. You're not going to care about these things when you're 50. And you should only write a novel that you could care about when you're 50. If you're not going to care about your novel when you're 50, then how can you expect your readers to? But I have a feeling, I have a vibe that this will be a story, not just a bunch of, picketing signs. And I wonder if I have. Does this give me any bit of the plot or no? No. Okay. Well, let me see if maybe the book does. Maybe the book does. I'd like to tell you something about it. Yeah, here we go. Okay. The year is 2029. In Japan, historically monoculture nation, childbirth rates are at an all-time low, and elderly are living increasingly long lives, which is also already true in Japan, right? And in most of the rest of the developed world. This population crisis has precipitated the mass immigration of foreign medical workers from all over Asia, as well as the development of finely tuned artificial intelligence to step in where humans fall short. In Tokyo, Angelica Navarro, a Filipina nurse who has been in Japan for the last 5 years, works as caretaker for Sayoko Ito, a moody, secretive woman about to turn 100 years old. One day, Sayoko receives a present, a cutting-edge robot friend that will teach itself to anticipate her every need. Angelica wonders if she is about to be forced out of her much-needed job by an inanimate object, one with preternatural ability to uncover the most deeply buried secrets of humans around it. Meanwhile, Sayoko becomes attached to the new machine. The old woman has been hiding secrets of her own for almost a century, and she's too old to want to keep them anymore. You see, that's what I meant. That's what gave me the impression that despite the publicist's best effort, the novelist Andromeda Romano Lax, is actually going to tell a great human story. So I'm looking forward to it. The next one, very small. Keep in mind this list. I know this pile is big, but this is an hour's reading. I will do this in an hour, so this doesn't represent a lot of time. And this I will read you about this one as well. This is, I think, a debut novel. Yes, this is a debut novel. It's by Gail Fay. It's called Small Country. And Gail Fay is very young. He was born in 1982 in Burundi to a French father and a Rwandan mother. In 1995, after the outbreak of the civil war and the Rwandan genocide, his family moved to France. As an author, songwriter, and hip-hop artist, he released his first solo album in 2013. Small Country is his first novel. It was a bestseller in France and has been awarded numerous literary prizes. And it's translated from the French by Sarah Ardizoni. And I thought I'd read you a little bit of it. It intrigued me enough so that I'll give it a try, definitely. Let's see here. Plus, as you all know, as I say it all the time, I have a big soft spot for debut stuff. I love reading debut stuff. I wish that more high-profile venues paid more attention to it. A lot of venues don't do that. A lot of high-profile venues think, well, earn your dues, kid, and then come back with your second or third novel and we'll review that. And publishing world isn't like that anymore. It's cutthroat. I mean, I understand not all reviewers are me, so not all reviewers can just take a pile of books home and read them. But if you read a debut novel and the voice is electric, sing it from the rooftops. That's what we want to do. We want to add as many voices to the chorus as possible. Really wish we had more book reviews, more book review venues. I wish we had more and more weeklies, magazines. I wish that every newspaper had a pull-out book section every Saturday or Sunday. I really wish that were true. And needless to say, I wish I wrote for them all. Anyway, The Small Country is an unforgettable and searing story of a young boy, a stolen childhood, and a shattered homeland, so almost exclusively autobiography. Already a bestseller in France, where it sold 500,000 copies. The novel has been awarded 7 literary prizes, among them the Prix Goncourt. Set against the backdrop of civil war in Burundi and genocide in Rwanda, this remarkable debut signals the arrival of an extraordinary new voice in contemporary fiction. And I wanted to read you something of this, because we've got a little time, and I actually, on a day like today, I really appreciate your company. So if you don't mind, I'll indulge. I want to read you the prologue. It's very quick, and it gives a hint that this author might have that snap that I was talking about. I really don't know how this story began. Papa tried explaining it to us one day in the pickup truck. In Burundi, you see, it's like in Rwanda. There are 3 different ethnic groups. The Hutu form the biggest group, and they're short with wide noses. Like Donatien, I asked. No, he's from Zaire, that's different. Like our cook, Prothe, for instance. There are also the Tiwa pygmies. We don't worry about them, they are so few they hardly count. And then there are the Tutsi, like your mother. The Tutsi make up a much smaller group than the Hutu. They're tall and skinny with long noses, and you can never tell what's going on inside their heads. Take you, Gabriel, he said, pointing at me. You're a proper Tutsi. We can never tell what you're thinking. I had no idea what I was thinking either. What was anyone supposed to make of all this? So I asked a question instead. The war between the Tutsis and the Hutus, is it because they don't have the same land? No, they have the same country. So they don't have the same language? No, they speak the same language. So they don't have the same God? Nope, they have the same God. So why are they at war? Because they don't have the same nose. Tell me you don't want to keep reading. I certainly did, so I'll be reading this. And the next one, we saw it just the other day. It's this, Martha's Vineyard Tales. This is by Chris Bear, and it's full of black and white archival photos, and it's just stories from all the different eras of Martha's Vineyard, which is a vacation island off the coast of Massachusetts here. And I know I'm going to love this. The whole point of this book is for readers to love it. It's made for vineyard fans. It's made for people who've walked these areas, who've biked past these bluffs and sand dunes and orchards and whatnot. And I'm reviewing it, so I'm gonna just bolt it down this weekend and write a review this weekend. And then the next one is a new book. It's by Jonathan Campbell, and it is American Discontent: The Rise of Donald Trump and the Decline of the Golden Age. It's a thin thing, but it seems really dense. It seems like an academic treatment of 2016, 17, and 18, which is, perilous because, it's ongoing history. But even so, let's see here. The 2016 presidential election was unlike any other in recent memory, and Donald Trump was an entirely different kind of candidate than voters were used to seeing. He was the first true outsider to win the White House in over a century and the wealthiest populist in American history. Democrats and Republicans alike were left scratching their heads. How did this happen? In American Discontent, the author explains Donald Trump's ascendance to the presidency by focusing on the long-developing economic, racial, ideological, and political shifts that enabled Trump to win the White House. Campbell argues that Trump's rise to power was the culmination of a half-century of deep, slow-moving change in America, beginning with the decline of the Golden Age prosperity that followed the Second World War. The growing economic anxieties of many Americans reached a tipping point when the 2008 financial crisis and Barack Obama's election as the first African-American president finally precipitated the worst political gridlock in generations. Okay. The 2008 financial crisis and Barack Obama's election as president did not precipitate the worst political gridlock in generations. The obstructionist Republican Congress did. And the reason they did was not because Barack Obama's policies were in any way radically different from what they were used to working with. The reason they did was because he was black. And so they said, white to a man, said, we don't have any priorities greater than denying this president a second term. We are going to say no to anything he proposes. Anything at all. No matter how it helps the country, no matter how many people it helps, we're going to say no to this black man right down the line the whole time he's in office. But I can disagree about a cover copy. We'll see what the author has to say. It seems like a very deep book. It's just I dislike the way these myths are taking root right now in real time. And there's plenty to criticize Barack Obama about, but blaming him for political gridlock is not one of them. But anyway, the last one is also something we've seen on this channel before. It's in a beautiful finished copy. Very happy to have the finished copy of it. It's a thriller, and it's also an international hit, just like Small Country. It's Death Notice. I don't know how to say the author's name, but look at the calligraphy for a novel. This is a thriller from a Chinese author. Yeah, there it is. See, the finished copy, you get to look at the author. You don't get to do that with the advanced copy. He's regarded as one of the top 3 suspense authors in China today. The Death Notice trilogy is China's best-selling work of suspense fiction to date. The online series based on these novels has received more than 2.4 billion views and has achieved almost legendary status among Chinese online dramas. I wonder if it's on YouTube. I wonder if Death Notice is on YouTube. Wow. Okay, so this is he's let me give you I don't think I have a pub sheet for this thing. No, I don't think I do. But I got the advanced copy and never actually read it. So I started it and liked what I read, but I didn't finish it. So this is Chengdu, China. The vibrant capital of Sichuan province is suddenly held hostage when a shocking manifesto is released by an anonymous vigilante known as Eumenides, after the Greek deities of vengeance and retribution. It is a bold declaration of war against... It is a bold declaration of war against a corrupt legal system, with Eumenides as both judge and... With Eumenides as both judge and ruthless executioner, the public starts nominating potential targets, and before long, hundreds of names are added to his kill list. And that sounds just great. So I will be digging into this. So that's Death Notice, American Discontent, Martha's Vineyard Tales. Keep in mind how small all of these are. This is 3 hours reading right there alone. That's all. It's just 3 hours reading. When I'm going to devote 70 hours of reading. So let's just so you're not. Again, I know you people all know this already. You know I'm a freak. Small Country, another debut. Plum Rains. Then the Council of 12, because in this book the hangman main character attends a council of other hangmen. Less by Andrew Sean Greer. Adrift, the book to the new movie that I think is out next month. And the Bar Harbor Retirement for Famous Writers and Their Muses. That is a stack for my my Friday reads, which I'm going to commence very soon. I'm going to cuddle with my puppy, and then I'm going to lose myself in reading. But first, I'll make another video or two. So I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.